What is up guys, Max here, and welcome back to another tutorial. Now as you saw, today we are learning how to replace an Apple Watch screen with anything you want from a green screen or things of that nature. Now it's a very simple replacement, but in my opinion a very essential skill to make some pretty cool content. Now before we get started, feel free to download my example footage and my project files down in the description so you can follow along. Alright, let's get started. So this is the example footage that you saw in the beginning of the video. I have a little spiro comp on here and then it kind of whooshes away just to show you that it's a comped screen. Now as you can see, if we zoom in, it's pretty spot on. So I got a good little bit of detail in here for getting this screen redone, but it looks really good. Okay, so now just to note, when you're replacing screens for phones, watches, it's kind of a case-by-case scenario. Some methods will work better than other methods depending on what the footage looks like or what kind of data you're working with. In this case, we have a shot of an over-the-shoulder camera on a tripod, and the arm is just kind of floating there. You know, not too much is going on, no camera movement. So analyzing this footage and kind of not playing a guessing game, but an understanding of VFX, the VFX artist can go in and actually decide on how they want to replace this screen. Now my first thought is there's no fingers moving across the screen, so that kind of narrows some things down for me. And also, since there's no fingers moving across the screen, I don't necessarily have to remove the green. I just have to put a screen on top of it to make it look like a screen is there. So that's what we're gonna do. Now if you're starting from scratch with the example footage, let's drag the footage into After Effects, and here I have my original footage, and I'm going to right click New Comp from Selection. Now this is our composition, ready to go. The first thing we want to do is create a 3D camera solve for this composition. So the first thing we'll do is right click our footage, go to Track and Stabilize, and then Track Camera. Now 3D camera tracker is pretty useful. The camera can be walking through a room and you can actually track the movement of the camera to different points. But in this case, we can use it to actually track the movement of the screen. I am going to speed this footage up so it looks like my computer's moving really quick, but in reality this takes about 5 minutes. Okay, so now it's done and we can see there's a 3D camera solve. And if you can see these little dots, and what it says when we kind of hover over these dots is it says no depth from tripod pan solve, which is okay. We don't want depth from the tripod pan solve. We want the camera just to be kind of static. And also these are all the data points that it kind of uses to track everything. So you can see it track this, track that, track that. So having all of these data points like little track markers on the green screen was really helpful for After Effects to create a good solve. In this case. So depending on your footage, you know, it can make it more difficult or not, or may prompt you to use a different method of tracking. For this particular footage, this works great. Okay, so what we'll do is just pretty much anywhere, just right click and then do create null and camera. Okay, so we now have a null and a camera, and basically what happened is we created a 3D camera that is going to help us find our footage. So what we'll do now is create a new solid that will become the new screen of our watch. So right click in your layer panel, new solid. Now I don't know the resolution of a Apple Watch by heart, so I'm googling it right now. Resolution is 384 by 480. We'll call this screen. Alright, so we have a nice screen right here. We'll put it on top of this. It's black right now. We probably should have chose a different color. So I'll go to Effects and Presets and type Fill and just drag a fill onto it so it'll turn it red. And then what we'll do is turn 3D on. So turn this little 3D icon on. If you don't see the 3D icons, right click in this little gray area, columns, and then switches. I'm pretty sure it switches. Yep, it switches. And there we go, 3D icon. And now that it's 3D, it should follow the watch. And you can see that the screen is following the watch because of the 3D camera solve. So we have now officially tracked it, but now we just have to make the screen look like it's actually there. Okay, so cool effect, one of my favorite effects for stuff like this. Go to your effects and presets right here. I'm actually gonna put this somewhere where it's more easier to see. Close this panel, close this panel. We're going to type corner pin. Drag corner pin onto this. Next step is to actually take the screen. We're going to go to mode right here and then do classic difference. So we can actually kind of see the classic difference of the footage. Pretty easy. Click the screen, click corner pin, grab the corners and move it to the corners. So corner pin is doing the legwork for us in this. And I do always typically make it, I mean, you can line it up as good as you want. Now the Apple Watch actually shows a time at the top. We also want to cover up that time. So, and I'm just kind of judging it by my eye, kind of what looks the best. This looks pretty good. Cover the bottom right here. Now, sometimes I do make it a little larger than the original screen just so it covers the edges. Only a super trained eye or an Apple engineer, designer is gonna probably say, this screen's a little too big. Yeah. And I always kind of like when I'm doing this, I kind of make a mistake, is I always do the first keyframe or the first frame of the composition when I'm doing this. Makes it a little more accurate, I feel like. Okay. Looks pretty. Oop, don't want to move the footage. I want to move the screen. Corner pin. Move this over. A little too high right there. That looks pretty good. Then we'll go to mode, go to normal, and we will play this back. And I say that's following that screen really well. The only thing I would do is probably stretch it out a little bit and cover up the edge, the green edge that we can see. That it's still there. And if you zoom really far out, you're probably not going to see it. But zooming in, we can kind of see that there is a tiny green edge. Back to classic difference. And thank you for being patient with me. I want to do the full coverage of this tutorial. You can see everything that I do. And no matter what happens, the resolution of this little screen will stay correct, no matter how much we stretch it, which is the best part of corner pin. Mode, normal. Just like so. Okay, now what we're going to do is right-click screen and do pre-compose. And let's call this watch screen. Right, and now if we double-click watch screen, we can see that it's like a flat layer right there. And what we can do is actually turn this fill off now. We don't need that anymore. Jump into watch screen. And this is where we can drag and drop the animation file that I provided you in the source files. If you go and find it, it'll be animation1_1, because I did it twice. We'll drag that animation onto the watch screen, which is our Spyro animation. Go back, and it should align perfectly. As you can see, we have a Spyro. He's walking, and he's looking pretty good. Now, we are missing a few things from the Apple Watch. The new Apple Watch Series 4 has rounded corners, so we need to create those rounded corners. All right, so go to your project, find your watch screen, copy and paste this composition. So Control-C or Command-C, and then Control-V. Watch screen 2. Right-click this, rename, and call this corners. Right? Now go to the beginning of your timeline. Take your watch screen, Control-D or Command-D to duplicate it, grab corners, and then hold Alt or Command on your keyboard and drag this on top of watch screen. Now that, basically what we just did was we replaced this composition with a different composition by holding Alt or Command on your keyboard when you drag it down and they're both selected. So it still retains the properties from After Effects, but the composition has been switched out. Another way you could do it is just dragging in corners. Go to the beginning, click P on your keyboard for watch screen, copy this position, paste it there, and then also copy corner pin and paste it onto corners. So that works as well. No big deal, but I like the Alt replace method as well. Okay, so double click into corners. Since this is a new composition, we can get rid of animation and we can get rid of this screen. Turn this off so we can see. But what we're going to do is draw out a rectangle. So we're going to draw out this rectangle, and we're going to make sure it is clipped to the corner. So go to your align window, align, hit the left, and hit that, and then grab your pan behind tool right up here, click on our shape layer 1, highlight shape layer 1, grab the anchor point, hold control on your keyboard, and ping it to that. Then what we'll do is actually use our pointer tool and drag out this shape until it is perfectly the same size as our artboard. Looks pretty spot on. Alright, now we can actually click on our shape, change the fill to, I don't know, black is fine. And then drop down on contents, rectangle path, and then do roundness. This is where you're actually choosing the roundness of your watch. Now, that looks pretty accurate. I don't actually know the actual angle that Apple uses, but I'm just kind of eyeing it, and this looks pretty accurate to me. And you can always change it later, which is good. Now, what we'll do is actually right-click New Solid, and a black solid is fine. Drag it under Shape Layer 1, and then what we'll do is go to Track Matte right here and drop this down to Alpha Inverted Matte, which inverts it to only show through what it's not being covered up by, which is our corners. And if we go back to our original composition by clicking on this, and I just realized this is not called a cool name, it's just called A002, it's my file number. We'll right click this and go to rename and call it Final Comp. Click Final Comp right up here, go back, and we can see that corners have been added to the watch. Now the color is a little off, which we can fix that. And we also need to make it a little larger around the edges because the back of Spyro is being shown through. So what we'll do is grab corners, effects on corners, corner pin, and actually cover up the edges. Now, one detail that I noticed that we can fix is that the fact that these corners aren't the exact same color. Like this is like too dark of a black, this black is a little too light almost, it looks like. And this black is that color right there. If we zoom out, it's a little easier to see, but we can definitely fix that. So double click into corners, highlight both of these, copy this, Control C, and then paste it, and paste it. These are our 4 corners, right? Then what we'll do, actually grab black solid, grab your little rectangle tool, and drag it across. Do this one, drag it across. Do this one, drag it across. Scroll down, grab this one, and drag it across. Now what we did was just create masks around each corner, right? And now we can actually go to our effects and presets, type fill, and drag a fill onto the black solid. Right? Copy this fill, paste it here, paste it here, paste it here. Now we can individually control each black fill for each piece of the corner to better match the original black from the watch. So what we'll do is actually go back to Final Comp, lock this layer, jump into corners. Now we're in control of this. We can actually see, why is it black? Right here. Grab the black solid, grab the little eyedropper tool from our effect controls, and drop it onto here. That black looks like that black. Grab this one, grab the eyedropper tool, that's our top right, grab it right here. Looks like that black. Grab this one, grab our eyedropper tool. A little more accurate. Grab this one, grab our eyedropper tool. Little more accurate. Just like so. Unlock this, exit out, and we're back to normal. Final Comp. Right. Now we have our corners comped in, our colors are more accurate on the corners, and we have a nice watch screen with Spyro walking. Now, one more effect to add to make this look a little more realistic. We'll double click into watch screen. we will let this load. We'll right click, go to new adjustment layer, go to our effects and presets, type Venetian Blinds, drag it onto our adjustment layer, and then transition complete. Let's move it back to like, I don't know, like that. We'll take the width down a little bit and change the angle to, I don't know, vertical, 0 degrees. So these are like the scan lines you would normally see on a screen. Really small, but it's a small detail, but it looks kind of nice. The next thing we'll do is we will go back, we'll kind of go back a little bit. We'll grab our pen tool and draw an arc across this and complete the arc up here. Change the fill to white. Go to our effect controls, type blur. We'll find Gaussian blur, which is in here. Gaussian blur. Drag it onto this. Turn the blur up a whole bunch. Hit T on our keyboard with shape layer 1 selected. Drag down the opacity. Now we have like that top highlight that you would normally see on a watch or something. Back to our final comp. It's not loading for us. There it is. There's like a nice white highlight up here. You can actually lock this and go back into here. Actually move the highlight around and actually kind of play with it until it looks a little more to your liking. That's totally up to you. Don't need that anymore. Now what we'll do is actually go back to Final Comp, click on Watch Screen, right click, Layer, and then Inner Glow, right? The Inner Glow is kind of neat. Move it over. Drop down on Inner Glow. Change the color to, black basically. Change the blend mode to normal. Increase the size a good bit, which creates this nice inner glow on the watch. Actually change the opacity, make it a little more subtle. Now we have that nice like depthy looking thing you see on watches. It's not completely realistic, but it does sell it for us a little more. You can see that our scan lines are in there too. But from here, as you see, you could keep tweaking this, you can keep changing this, but this is basically the final piece. That would be Spyro on a watch. And that's how we do it. Looking closely, I saw there's 2 little highlight things here. That's just something that was actually on the watch. Reflections, stuff like that. But if we zoom in, this looks pretty darn good. I mean, there's little things that I would change. Maybe the corner pin, change it a little bit. Like get this over here. Maybe make that a little darker. But I mean, the most I would change from here is maybe change like the brightness or contrast of this screen. If we jumped into watch screen and actually like did another layer on our adjustment layer, dropping Lumetri color on adjustment layer, and actually changing like, I don't know, the saturation maybe. There's a lot you could do to sell this a little more. Color grading, adding grain, stuff like that, but that's pretty much it. That's how you make that. As always, I'm Max. Thank you for watching this video. Thank you for being a part of the channel. If you are new to the channel, please like and subscribe to my channel and join this fun thing we're doing. I cover a lot of different topics on animation, film editing. I do some tech reviews, stuff like that. I'm trying to expand it into more story-based content. We'll see how it goes. And if you do want to continue the conversation, feel free to leave a comment on this video and I will quickly respond, and or you can join my Discord where we talk film and animation all the time, anywhere. And if you don't know what Discord is, it's a free and friendly service where we have different discussions about animation and whatnot. There's tons of different Discords out there that I don't run. There's the Adobe Discord, the Premiere Discord, the Cinema Discord, the After Effects Discord, whatever this one is, and the Photography Club, which I think is really cool. A bunch of different Discords out there where you can actually talk shop and talk film. Anything, you'll find it. So that about wraps it up. Till next time, guys. Peace.